Ready to go live? Yes, we are ready. We are ready indeed. Hello. So now I'm checking, waiting for YouTube to kick in. Ah, yeah. Okay, can you say something?
Hello, can you hear me? Is my sound okay? Any trouble?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's okay, right?
It's wonderful. Okay. Yes.
Good.
Wonderful. So yeah, hello and welcome everyone. Probably not on the live stream so much because I saw that there are not many people listening now. Basically, there is only myself watching the stream for a second, and now I think zero watching people again. But maybe it's a good offline or recording that we are going to make now. It's all about Bluetooth and very complicated stuff that we need to do for our porting of devices for Ubuntu Touch. And with me, joining me live this day, here is Ari. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Thank you. I've been looking forward to this. As you said, Bluetooth is not simple. I've been bashing my head at this for half a year now.
True. And I was always saying, well, it's possible, and we did it, and other people did it, and myself did it, and then it seems still that there are some complications, maybe with your kernel and your device, that we should take a look into. I'm just posting again that link here. Maybe one of the 804 people in the porting group wants to join us. Yeah? So, I mean, that's a tremendous amount of people. Unfortunately, not everybody is porting. Otherwise, we would already be finished with all the devices.
Yeah.
So, maybe tell us a bit about your device and what's the current state, what's working, what not, so we get a feeling where you are.
Well, actually, I've been working on it. This is a Samsung Galaxy S7. And I picked that up about a year ago now, started working on it. And as I'm not a developer, I'm an amateur, basically. I just read and followed the guides here. And that took me part of the way. I got a lot of help from people in the porting group, and finally I got both the device to boot, and then afterwards brought up the graphical UI. But I've had a lot of trouble with different things, and at the moment, actually, someone else joined and continued the porting effort for this device. So on the device page now, there's info about the Samsung Galaxy S7. That's not thanks to me, but I don't know his real name, actually. His nick here is at OLIV.
It's Olive, yeah, Olive, I remember. Yeah. He asked already a few questions about Real and Ophono and getting the call stuff done also. Yeah, it's great. I mean, we would love to see more Samsung devices, so that would be a good addition to our range, because if you think about that, Samsung is the biggest vendor of smartphones on the planet, and yet we have only a little amount of devices ported. So the more common devices we would port, the more potential users we can have. It's just a pragmatic approach, if we think about what should be ported and what not.
Definitely.
Now, let's say why we are here today. It's just because Bluetooth is one of the things where Canonical had to make kind of a concession or a trade-off in terms of how they will get a working Bluetooth stack for their operating system. The thing is that when they started to use old Android devices, the kernel versions were already pretty aged. So we are talking about kernels that start around 3.0, 3.1, 3.4, 3.10, 3.18, something like that. Yeah. If you think about that, today we have kernel versions around 5. it's no wonder that those kernels, they don't get any support. First of all, they don't get security patches. Everything is outdated, and yet those are devices that we are using. So what Canonical did also at this time was they said, okay, we have a very old kernel with old drivers, but we need a newer Bluetooth stack because many of the new hardware that you're actually using, headphones, car kits, whatsoever, they will struggle with the old drivers. And we also they don't want to run an old Ubuntu version that is compatible with that kernel. They wanted to run on versions 14.04, 15.04, 16.04 that came with a newer Bluetooth stack, and newer kernel versions also. Luckily, there is a project totally unrelated to Ubuntu Touch or UbiPorts ongoing for many, many years now that is providing backported drivers for the kernels for newer hardware. So in certain scenarios, when you want to use a newer hardware, a newer network card. It was mainly about network cards in the beginning for Wi-Fi, but also for wired networks. And the driver came only into a new kernel version, but you were bound to a lower one, like, I don't know, you're running a server or a long-term release of any operating system. You wanted to run that new hardware, you could build yourself a kernel and integrate the backported driver. So the idea was that support for newer hardware, newer drivers would just be replacing the drivers that are in your old kernel. And they made a really, really awesome job because they made an automatic configuration and also adding a lot of patches so that the older driver has some helper interfaces attached in the code that it can speak to the newer driver can speak to the older kernel because they are just patching up everything that's needed. Hey Hassan, we have one viewer. We have actually two viewers now. I just want to say, hey, I can do this. Hello, guy. Thanks for joining in live. That's awesome that we at least have one or two viewers here. So we want to backport specifically the drivers for Bluetooth and a few attached helper drivers from a newer kernel to an older one. And Canonical made a cooking recipe for that, and I went over this one or two times, and then I made another description for it that is in our infamous pad for the porting FAQ. Yeah, it was overwritten multiple times. I restored it multiple times. We should take some time to capture it out of that pad, so make it read-only, basically. Hello, Rapid Fire Music. That's our second viewer. Very nice to see you. So I would, the challenge is now that I'm going to try to do this process live without any preparations. Ari is going to watch it. We are trying to work out if we got stuck, if it's just depending on his specific kernel or on his specific machine setup. I'm doing this actually on a server of mine. And that actually, let me check one thing, because I was not sure about the version that it's running on. Good question. I think it's 1804. Let's check in a second. The idea is now that I'm going to share this from my screen, which should work actually like that. And I hope this is visible. Here we go. I hope this is visible in some way so that people can make up their mind. I will also try to comment a bit what I'm doing. So I'm starting with a really empty directory here. Nothing is there. We want to go for it step by step. So the first thing that we need, obviously, is the target kernel. You sent me one a long time ago. You sent me the link actually for your kernel. But I think it was a different branch where I put it.
Okay.
If you like, either you can send me the link again to be sure that I'm taking the right version and also the right branch, and I will first clone that into a subdirectory here.
Now, as I said just before we went live here, there are several branches here, and they all contain some type of Bluetooth porting effort or something, some commits that I've made. So they're kind of messy here, and I'm not sure actually what I should choose, but here is
in theory, we can replicate it on any of those. So
okay,
we can just grab one for the time being.
I'll take the latest one here. Where did you say you want me to share it?
You can just post it on Telegram for me. I will just copy it here onto
Telegram. Okay.
Into the box.
There you go.
Okay, exactly. Perfect. So I'm actually going to clone that thing here. I think we can go for, let's say, only 100 commits or so, because we don't need all the commit history. That will be much faster now. So I don't have to wait here for, I don't know how many hundreds of megabytes of kernel code. Let's see if that works out. I'm never sure with Git parameters how they actually are looking. So this is the target kernel. So basically, that one is a 3.18. 18, right? It was a 3.18. So it's one of the newer ones of the aged ones, but doesn't matter. They all need the backports. We are going to backport from a kernel version 4.2. Everything around the 4 point something range would be okay, but it turns out that the current Blues version that's in Ubuntu Touch, Senior 1604, is, I think, something like 440 something. No matter. That's compatible with the Bluetooth stack from the kernel 4.2. So that's actually what we're going to pull. We don't need more because the higher you go, the more you risk breaking changes or compile errors or things that you have to fix. So we want to go for the minimum version for the time being, because that promises more or less the fastest resolution of that topic. Yeah? Okay, so we have the target destination kernel. We are going to pull a backports repository that actually contains the scripts that Canonical has prepared, because the backports kernel repository would backport everything, or you need to choose which driver groups you want to have, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, whatever. So Canonical prepared a repository here. With that, it's already pre-configured what it would insert into the target kernel. So that's why we are cloning this right away. That's actually just a pre-configured thing, and we are going to put that here into backport scripts directory. Let's call it like that. And that will actually try to automate everything what we want to do. The other thing is we need a source kernel. So where we're gonna take it from. Interestingly, before the show, I checked that I pointed in my documentation to a kernel from googlesource.com. We have to find out, and I cannot do this right now, if this is really the best thing, but it's obviously the one that's working. Yeah? And we're going to take this. It's called Linux Next, which is basically part of that initiative to have a little bit more modern drivers and stuff upcoming. So that's basically the one that we want to have. And we're going for a branch that has the kernel version's name. So in our case, for example, v4.2, oops, should bring us to that kernel. If you want to check actually what's there before, we could do the following. I could just grab that thing here from the web page, and then I would say, okay, there are some tags here, and I would go for more tags, for example, and then there are version branches for a lot of versions of Linux. So there is a 4.2. Shall we try 4.3 maybe? Why not actually? Let's be a little bit more adventurous. Let's say we want to have 4.3. So basically that's how it would work. Yeah, here I'm not going to clone only 100 commits, because I don't know what the branch 4.3 is actually doing, where it resides. So if I don't clone everything, the problem is I might not get the whole branch. 2.4 gigabytes, holy moly. Okay, that will take some time maybe. I mean, I'm on a fast server here, to be honest. Yeah, so that's not my home machine. That's a hosted server that can actually do that quite fast, but still it's a little bit taking time. So the nice idea for our broadcast and recorded show is also that we can make a better documentation out of that live event, because it's recorded. You can step back. If something didn't work, we can first of all cut it out. The second thing is we can make a cool documentation for people that want to do the same thing. Yeah? Because it's not that easy in terms of we are going to run this automated script to prepare our kernel, but I know already it will fail at a certain point, because the Android kernel has diverted from the mainline kernel a bit. So applying those patches isn't as straightforward as it could be. And unfortunately also, we have 1 or 2 security fixes here. Actually, they don't apply because you have kernel 3.18. I have something here for kernel smaller than 3.10. We don't need this. That's a nice thing. We have 1 security patch that we should add at the end. The other problem is that the Qualcomm devices that have a Bluetooth adapter that is running over a shared memory device, that wasn't in the kernel mainline driver section at all. And that one we need to move or copy to the backports directory later on if it's needed. So if you have a Bluetooth driver that's called ACI_SMD, that will not be backported. And because of the redirection of the drivers into backports directory now, it will effectively be disabled after the backport is done. So there are a few complications that I found out, but still it's somehow doable, hopefully. Yeah?
So what you've done so far, Florian, you downloaded some backport scripts.
Yeah, so
that you're going to use. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the kernel here. Step 1 is right. You have your kernel, of course. Step 2 is you have the backport scripts, which is actually the automation for applying the backports.
Right.
And the step 3 is we are cloning the source kernel, which is now version 4.3. I decided 4.2 would be okay. I'm feeling lucky today and want to try it with 4.3. Yeah. So that people cannot say, well, he scripted that already 2 days ago. I mean, I could have still. But believe me, I never tried it with 4.3. I want to be on the same ground as you are all the time.
Great. Good.
So,
okay.
That's the thing. So, the advice from my side is also, if you're doing major changes on the kernel, make a branch, commit often, save your work, save small increments, because the more you hack around, the more you lose trace of why things aren't working or not working. Working with Git today as a source control system is really nice, because you can make a small commits in a small effort, and that will just help to give you a history of what work you have done. There is no use in sending pull requests that changes 100 files, because you will never be able to reproduce. Also on the other end, for people that are receiving patches like that, will never get an idea of really what's going on there. Yeah. Good. So checking one thing. Sorry, of course. We are going into this Linux next directory now. Yeah, there actually you can see the wonderful Linux 4.3 tag from Linus Torvalds in 2015. Hello, Linus. In Austria, in German, we would rather say Linus, but okay. So we definitely have checked out Linux 4.3 in that directory. There was one message here, don't be afraid of this one, you are in a detached head state. That's because we didn't create the branch. We can do so now, just to give us a better feeling what we are doing here. Yeah. So basically you have then one small branch here, because we only grabbed one branch from the remote now with all the changes. We don't created a local branch immediately, but just to give us a state here. Anyways, the Linux Next directory is only our source. We won't commit anything there, so that's really just for grabbing all the stuff. Okay, so the next thing, I'm deleting my screen here. Just learned 5 minutes before the show that with Control L I can clean my screen. Finally, very nice. Learning every day. So the idea now is we are actually going, there is now 3 directories here. The kernel source, the backport script, the Linux Next. We are going into the backport script directory, and we are issuing a command that unfortunately was set up by Canonical, and I'm just copying this here because it will be something that I don't want to spell or type here. I'm just copying this out of my notes. We will link probably some kind of document to that show later on to have also the sources for the document for where I'm taking all these commands from. Just copying this here, but let's go over it for a second. The script here in this directory is called gentree.py. So it's a Python script. We are very unsure about the Python version that you actually need, right? It had problems with this or that Python version. I think on that machine it works, but okay, let's see. Yeah. There is a parameter called copy list. I think that's the list of things it should integrate into the kernel. So that's basically the selection of the drivers for copy list. Minus integrate. That's actually a parameter that tells it to run in the integrate kernel mode. So it has 2 different modes for the backports. The other one, I don't really know how it should work, but we need the integrate kernel mode because we want all the patches to land directly in that kernel at the end. Yeah. So that's the right mode. Minus clean, I assume it would remove previous attempts for backporting, so it's okay. And finally, we need to tell it what is the git-revision actually that this is coming from. Yeah. So we are checking this now for 4.3 because that's the one that we are going to use. And now comes 2 parameters that are important. The first one is the source directory where we are actually getting the newer drivers. And that's actually in our case Linux Next. So that's the path to where we're getting the drivers from. The second one is now the path to your kernel, means we are again 1 layer up, and then we're going to the Android kernel Samsung Universal something. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's basically according to documentation. I didn't add anything here. That was what Canonical always suggested. So now I'm going to press enter. And let's pray that this works, because I have no clue what will happen now with the 4.3 kernel, right? Shall we?
Yes.
Okay, I press the button. And we have already an error. Too many values to unpack. Oh, get original source files from Git. No! Perfect. Very nice. Too many values to unpack. I'm really git.ls3, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We definitely, it did do this last time.
Now that resembles a lot what I have been getting all the time, except that the error is not the same.
Sure, yeah. So, let's see what we can do about this. The first thing that I would say we need to see is, again, what kind of thing did we check out here for the, that's a branch actually that I specifically created for that. Well. It's interesting thing that what tags do we have here? They have all the tags here as well, so it should be able to find the right thing. 4.2, 4.3. Good. Let's go back to the error message a bit. Challenge is accepted. No way. Copy git files. Kernel dir, copy list, git-revision, target dir. Okay. mthf in git.ls3 ref file source item 3 source path. Too many values to unpack. That's a really interesting thing. Actually, what Python versions do we have here? We have 2.7, 3.6. We can actually try with a newer one maybe, right? Maybe that works. So backport script, by the way, if you look here, has this gentree.py. Let's look inside what this is all about. Yeah, it's just calling Python directly. Just out of curiosity, let's take 3.6 here. Yeah? Maybe that helps. Who knows? Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe because the script is very old, it would expect 2.7 and my system default is 3.6. Yeah? That would also make perfect sense. Yeah. Too many values to unpick. Expected 4. Did I add too many values here on the command line? Can it be? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Man. That thing is really bad. Yeah. Doesn't like me in this case. You can see small difference here that immediately comes up because that message here from the newer Python tells us it's expected 4. But they're actually, well. Okay, copy git files, line 217. Unfortunately, we have to see now Python code, and I'm not the best Python programmer on the planet. So if somebody feels inclined to going that way, what was it, 207? 217? Let me check one more. 217.
217, yeah.
217. mthf git ls3. I see. So basically copy files from a git repository, listing them with ls3 and then using git show to obtain all the blobs. So it's actually having troubles getting, there are 4 values for that. Okay, t is blob, blah blah blah. I understand. So it's calling actually git ls3 and that thing gives too many return values. Let me check the documentation for this thing. Of course, we don't know exactly what will be the outcome here in Python. Okay, blah 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 blah. Git ls3 documentation. In this case, okay, which library is this thing using? Not really much. Import bp git as git. Okay, bp git, this one here. Is this something that Google knows or some other search machine? bp git. Never heard that actually. And it's pointing again to kernel.googlesource. It's again pointing to the backports repository. Perfect. Nobody knows about this. It's backports git. Oh no. Okay. We're getting a little bit deeper here. I'm sorry for that, but we might find it. So what they probably did was they have somewhere going. No. No, that's also not the thing what I want. This is path event source tier libraries we have. BP git. Where are you coming from? Lib. There we are. BP git. What are you doing? How can you not be compatible with yourself? So you see basically that git.ls3 is just telling Git to make ls3 with that parameters, and that we can actually fake and see what's happening. Okay, we know a little bit more about this thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going here maybe, git ls3. Okay, that is basically having a lot of parameters here. Name only, blah 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 blah, tree-ish path and so on. Yeah, is this basically working on a branch name also? Yeah, it's basically working on a branch. Ref name 4.3 is ambiguous. That might be a problem. That's the reason why maybe I shouldn't create a branch here. So for the nodes, we should maybe not create the branch with the same name as the tag, because the problem is that warning can already throw it up. Throw it up. No, I'm sorry for nothing froze up. 4.3 test, let's say. I just have to bend around my microphone here, by the way. Okay, so I think that's the reason. Let's try it. But you see, that script, that Python script, doesn't help you with anything. It just breaks. Huh? You see? Nearly. It did a little bit more. Okay. Oh my God, the kernel directory. Yes. That's the second mistake that you can run into. I tried to use a relative path for the kernel. Unfortunately, this wonderful script doesn't like relative paths. So, no. The path to your kernel, unfortunately, needs to be an absolute path. So we can take $home, porting, kernel backports, Android something. So that's an important thing for the documentation, actually. And I will put it still in the pad, even if the pad is not really used these days. I will write here absolute path to your kernel. Yeah?
I believe I've been using relative paths all the time.
I mean, it's stupid. Relative paths must work in a Unix and Linux environment with all the scripts. You have to expect that people are using them. Why that condition would be there? Okay, let's try again. I hope it's that one. Click. Yeah, exactly. That works. So now it's going to do a lot of messing around with the kernel, and let's pray that we don't fail, except for that one, and that's okay. So let's see what it did. Get original source file from Git. So hopefully it took the 4.3 things. Applying patches from patches to blah blah blah. It has actually its own patch directory, and that will apply additional patches. The first thing just copied everything over. Yeah? Then it modified kconfig, which basically introduces a new section in the kernel configuration options that you have backports that you can select or not. Yeah?
Okay.
Then it has integration patches. That's another range of patches it does. Don't ask me why. And now there is one thing that fails, enable backports. And that always fails on the Android kernels. And as we can see from the message here, it fails 2 or 3 modifications in that patch. But that's okay because the makefile has changed, or the makefile is a little bit different in Android. Yeah? So
just can I ask something here? So when it comes to this stage here, where it enables the backports, that is what it's doing is doing modifications to make files.
Yes, that's it's the master make file on top of the kernel tree from your kernel already. So everything else was already successful. It tries to wrap up and start activating the stuff. And that fails because the make file patch is not compatible anymore.
Okay.
I don't know why actually, because I would expect that the top level make file of the Linux kernel should be still like in the mainline, but obviously it's not. I'm a little bit cheating now on that one because just for the sake of what actually has been done from my side to get this going. So I will look on my second screen on another kernel where I fixed this already some time ago. But never mind. We go up one directory. We go into the Android kernel Samsung something thing. And let's see what's the state here. We have a makefile, and we have a makefile orig and reject. Let's quickly get the rejected patch here. So when I'm getting a rejected patch like that, I try to visualize, okay, what is the modification all about? Okay, we have a core something, we have core modules, drivers yes. Those are the variables for collecting which options were set actually from the kernel config. So it's generating actually a makefile what it should build. And here this line was added because we need to include the backports folder or the selected options from backports also for the ones that have been selected with yes and the ones that would be selected with M.
Yep.
And there is a similar thing here. And then again, we have here some additional line that goes here together with this init core and driver. So we have to look around that spots actually. Here again, it's added. So it seems not to be much. Let's see if we can fix that. So first thing is, let's just open an editor with the makefile. I'm not trying to fix the patch now. That would take more time than just trying to get this going directly in the makefile. Okay, how does the makefile look here? By the way, if you want to find out which Android kernel version you have in your device, open the makefile and go to the first 2 lines, or 3 lines actually. Here you can see that we have a kernel 3.18. Because some people sometimes are asking, what is my kernel version? They're not sure. That's the place where you can find it. Okay, we are actually looking now because we saw before there was something with core minus yes. Maybe we can find something that's called core minus yes in that makefile. And we see here, here is a core minus yes, there's libs yes, and actually backports minus yes is already here. So that's the first part of the patch that worked. Now we're gonna search for the next part. So we again are gonna search for core minus yes. Okay, here we have something. Core minus yes, VM Linux dirs, VM Linux all dirs. We remember that that pattern looked similar, so there were a few variables here with core minus blah 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 blah. And actually, we do it maybe a little bit different. Let me do this with screen maybe, because what I can do, I can switch between those two things. So the first thing what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing getting the reject file again, and then let's open a second console where I'm actually editing the makefile. If I'm not too stupid to type the name. So again, we are looking for that pattern somewhere. For some reason it couldn't be applied. But if I look at my tree, I really don't understand why it didn't work. Let's see if we can find VM Linux minus dirs. That should be there.
Yeah.
Okay, VM Linux minus dirs. Yeah, it's here.
Right.
I don't know why that didn't work, but let's copy that line into the makefile, because it seems to sit between core and net.
Yep.
We have the same structure here. Bam, we copy that. You can look here if it's using tabs. Here it's using spaces, 2 tabs. So I'm doing exactly the same. Fine. Yeah?
So different white space characters can actually be a problem?
You don't want to risk it. The easiest thing, if you're going to commit it with wrong white spaces, the easiest problem that you get is that some people are complaining that you don't comply with the white space rules in that project. Because in open source, every project has different white space rules. And sometimes a white space blank looks the same, or 4 blanks look the same as a tab, but I'm checking. Yeah, I learned by talking with people a lot that it, while it's not relevant here, maybe let's keep it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Just for the sake of minimal surgical damages or collateral damage. Yeah. Okay, here's the second part. The second part is between core and net, again in VM Linux old years. And for some
just
reason,
a little bit further down, yeah.
Yeah, but the interesting thing here is that looks a little bit different, I think, because we have init, core, and net. Yeah? And here we have init, core, drivers, net, libs. That looks a little bit different. Yeah? We will just try to do this in the same way. So then that's the reason why actually the patch fails. Yeah. To be honest, it could all be on one line because that's just a line break with the backslash here. Yeah?
Right.
So, but the interesting other thing is that it doesn't have all the options because here is init minus only. And if you look here you have init minus n. Yeah. Very
but
interesting.
then next to it, you've got the init minus.
I will have to see. Wait a second.
I would suggest,
I would suggest we put backports minus just here because it's a list. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. It's just a list of things that this target should include, and we just try. If we don't put minus n here, we will see where we can find this. Okay, so that part of the patch, we are still missing to put this somewhere. And the other thing what we are looking for is now what is actually init minus yes assigned to. Yeah, so that's basically an assignment statement here in the makefile. We have to add another backports minus yes there. So let's see if we can find this. That should be rather straightforward. Oh, sorry, wrong. Here we are. So we are searching again for an init minus yes somewhere. Well, actually it's here. Oh, I'm stupid. That's all in one place. So that part goes just here. Yeah.
Right.
And you can see again, somebody played here with tabs. I don't know what the people are doing all the time. Now I have blanks here. Can I do it with a tab? Yes, I can do it with a tab. Okay, so that fulfills the thing here. We are still missing init minus no modification. So can we find an init minus no? No. And the reason for that is probably because that was dropped from this makefile in kernel 3.18. Yeah. So I assume that's not needed anymore. It's just an assumption. Let's see. Yeah?
Okay.
For my kernel 3.10, maybe I can just show from my wonderful Nexus 6P, you can see that it's still here. Yeah. So in the VM Linux all DOS block, it had still core minus no, drivers no, backports no, and so on. Yeah. But here those minus no's are gone. So I do it with the rule of similarity and just put inside the thing with minus, and that's it. Yeah. And the last one is still is also there. So that's the problem with the makefile patch. For some reason, maybe Android didn't pick up makefile changes that were made by mainline Linux here, but that patch doesn't apply. Okay, great. Actually, this is the point where you already struggled with the backport script, right? Because that didn't.
Yeah.
Was it only that error message that we saw before, or was more, right?
That I got, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't identical to what we got before, but I was also missing all these parts in the make file.
Yeah. I see. Okay. Doesn't matter. Let's go ahead a little bit. What you have now, if you go for git status, let's see what was done. You would say, well, that's not much. We have 2 modified files, but we have 1 backports directory here. Yeah? So that's the magic, how this works. Because they wanted to try to stay away from patching everything in the kernel. And instead, they just added the new directory for the backports. And everything is inside here. Yeah? And then the clever thing is, if you're modifying now the kconfig, so let's do a git diff actually. What was modified? We have a new source for the kernel config files in backports. We have a new directory that needs to be built. And then we have added that stuff around here. Yeah? And that's it. That's the whole thing. The rest of the backport logic is totally commanded by configuration directives in the configuration file, actually. Yeah? And in the make files, of course, because they're a little bit more complicated. But in terms of modification to the kernel, you're basically adding 1 directory and the changes to the main make file, and that's it. Yeah? So let me see one more time. In the backports folder, what got backported? Let's say it this way. Yeah. Backport include that some changes they need, compatibility. You can see it added stuff here for various levels of kernel versions. And one thing that I saw was it doesn't go back to kernel 3.4 anymore. I don't know why. We have to see. I don't know where the 3.2 is coming from. No idea. Well, oh, sorry. Here's 3.4. It's still okay. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Don't panic. Yeah. You can still use it on the old kernels. Dev configs is empty, and now drivers. And here, it added only Bluetooth driver stuff. Yeah. So it's a small subset of the things that could be backported. No Wi-Fi drivers, nothing. It could be changed, of course. If we want to have other drivers backported, we could modify the list. Yeah. Inclusion, blah, blah, blah. And then in net, here comes the interesting part. We don't only backport Bluetooth drivers, we also modify the stack. And that's the important changes. We are modifying the net directory in the kernel. The net directory contains Bluetooth stack parts in an updated form. Yeah? And here is the whole thing that we need for more modern Bluetooth devices. Yeah? Changes, patches, improvements, security fixes maybe, whatsoever, protocol changes, and so on. Yeah? The support for LE basically is also patched, I think. I'm not sure about low energy modes, but it should be. 6LowPan, for example, is a folder that's needed for IPv6 over low energy connections. It's really nice. So here's all the good stuff, right? Okay, now we didn't do anything except putting a new folder here. Now we need to activate it actually, right? So how do you would normally do this? You have 2 options basically. You could use the menu config option. Yeah, the menu config option should be quite okay. I don't know if menu config works now out of tree here. I can try. Maybe not. Oh, well, basically it does. But it's not reading. You actually would have to load the correct dev config from a file because it's loading .config, and .config is the default, but it's not the Android one that you have in the tree. Yeah? But just one thing to note. Here you can see there is now this category Backport Linux for free. Yeah? And if you check that and we go inside, then we have all these options here that we can activate. Yeah? Subsystem support and go out here. I don't know. Build all. You can choose a lot of these things here. We are in my experience, it's a little bit easier to do it directly in the defconfig files. Yeah? Okay, let's see. Where are the defconfig files? They are basically in the ARM or ARM64 folders. So I assume it's a 64-bit kernel.
That's right. Yeah. So it's in the ARM64.
We need to go here. Right? We need to go here. Oh, that's nice. Actually, there's not such a mess as in the others. Do you know what I mean with mess? For example, you take this one. We just compare with a different kernel here. Google, Wahoo, Arc, ARM64. Hold your breath. Okay, it's not that many, but still, there's a lot of stuff that we don't need. This kernel is shared between the Pixel 2 and the Pixel 2 XL. And those guys made my life so much more miserable because they have LineageOS placed 2 dev configs here. And I forgot completely to patch one when I released the kernel for the device that I'm not owning, and I couldn't test it. So I messed it up. Same here, probably. You have 2 configs. You would have to apply the changes to both of them.
Well, yeah. Those 2 are actually for 2 different devices. They're for the normal Samsung S7, and then the top one is for what's it called, the one with the I think it has curved edges on the screen or whatever. Slightly different version, but I see there's someone trying to port for that and talking about it in the porting group, and there are a number of differences, so you can't just use
cannot be used right away.
Right.
Okay, all right, let's see. So yours is that second one, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. We have to disable now all the Bluetooth options from the kernel and switch them over to backport Bluetooth options. What does it look like? I'm searching basically for BT underscore. Then I see, for example, here config BT equals yes. Yeah. The interesting thing is we will have to disable that. Yeah. So what you can do actually is take a notepad on the fly. Now let's make it differently. Let's make it in an electronic way. I don't take a notepad. We will just say, okay, what are we going to disable? Config BT. Gonna be disabled. If you are a really, how to say, nitpicker, then you're going to do it like this.
Right.
Okay, we go over that thing a little bit more. We see, there is another BT. It's all around the config BT options.
But then afterwards, Florian, you're going to replace those, right?
Yes.
And I just wanted to ask, I did the same thing that you were showing us now, disabled them one after one. And at the same time, I made a copy and inserted config backport BT. You know, the difference.
Yeah.
But couldn't you just done a search and replace?
Yes, but as there are more options that we are going to add, they don't necessarily are all of them are in that you need for the backports. So the thing is that we will gonna add a lot more options than the default kernel has enabled, because we are basically, let's say, boosting it a little bit with additional options that should or are necessary or should be okay to be added, even if we don't know exactly. But I try to go from a way where those options that we are adding here are proved to work on other devices, so you get a high probability if you do it in the same way, then it should also work for you. Yeah? And what the vendor has enabled here doesn't matter, because we need for Ubuntu Touch, we anyway need a set of certain Bluetooth options. It doesn't matter if they are from BT or backports BT, you need to add more actually to what Android has. Yeah? to make Blues happy. So even without the backports applied, you would have to add more options than you can find currently. Because you see now we have only 2 here. Yeah?
Yep.
And I'm going to search further, and the search already wrapped. So there is no more than these 2 options. And that makes me a little bit wondering what Android kernel does here. To be fair, most of the functionality of Bluetooth is solved in a different way because Android is using BlueDroid. And BlueDroid is a much more comprehensive Bluetooth stack than what the Linux kernel had at this time. So if you're asking yourself why the old kernel was able to run the Bluetooth device that now Ubuntu Touch cannot run, one of the reasons is because Android has put everything in user space. Yeah? They didn't want to rely with Bluetooth on the aging kernels, and they saw already they need much more newer code to support it. So they just decided we put as much as possible into the user space. Yeah? Good. But let's remember that we disabled these 2 options because we now will need them to be enabled. For my modifications, I always go to the very end of that file. Like this, maybe. Okay. And actually, is that your branch that you're working on? I have no idea. Because it doesn't seem like.
Nope, it's...
Okay. Then you have a homework. Put it on your branch. Okay, so we know now, we decided these 2 options. We are going to enable them now from the backport repository. And how they look like is basically like this. So, okay, there is a config BT. I'm going to enable config backport BT. Yeah? So the interesting thing is the second one here is actually your driver. Yeah? With the drivers, we need to see if that one is in the backport repository. If not, we have to copy it here. Yeah? So let's do the following. Oh, sorry. No, that's not one. Jeez, what did I do? I wanted to do that actually. So that should put eventually the driver from the backport repository into the current kernel, and the BT, that one here, is the generic flag, the master flag for switching Bluetooth on. Yeah? Okay, and now we're going to add all the stuff that we need. Yeah? Now it gets interesting. That one here is good stuff. So I make a note here. Additional BT configs needed for UT. I'm just assuming it's like that. Whoa. Okay, what do we have here? That's some additional protocol enablement for the Bluetooth stack to speak with devices. And I'm still missing something here. Let me see. Yeah, exactly, that one. We're also going to enable that stuff here. I agree that you don't need the debug FS normally, but let's have it there. We want to have LE because that's low energy mode. That will be fine for certain headsets and stuff. We want to add 6 low pan because that's also used by Bluetooth sometimes. So that's all for hopefully better device support. Now, unfortunately, those options from the backport tree, they are actually requiring certain other options from the other sections of the kernel to be set. Yeah? So let's add this as well. That's actually that nice stack of things here. Yeah? Depending options. Let's call it like this. So CRC16 is a algorithm for calculating checksums. Crypto must be on, block cipher, AES, CMAC, HMAC, ECB, SHA 256, and so on and so on and so on. You can search for that ones if they're already enabled. So we could go like this, search for that, It's enabled already. Very cool. Then go for crypto. Crypto must be enabled as well because Android kernels love crypto. Oh, crypto is not enabled.
What happens if you forget and you have two lines, identical lines in the def config?
You get a warning normally. You get a warning that the compiler tells you option blah, 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 overrides or changes, blah, blah, blah. So if you look closely when you start compiling Halium boot, for example, there are messages about duplicated or not really duplicated, but options that are more than one time in the config file. So take a note for that. If you're going to compile this, then we can check it together for that one. If there is something like this. Yeah?
Will it fail to build?
No. It will take the last one that you set. It's a mean thing because, yeah. But you can see, for example, config crypto wasn't set at all in your kernel. Yeah? I only find that one occurrence here at the end. So that's also clear that some options from here, they won't even work without those set. Config TTY, for example, could be set. Yeah, that's set already. Yeah, okay, and so on and so on. So what we can do, we could make it like this, because we saw these two are already existing, right? Just double check one more time. TTY is here. CRC16 we said is here. Perfect. So we can disable them. I would leave them together that you see now. Okay, that was the block with the required options, but two of them were already on. Okay?
Right.
Okay, now comes fun. We still didn't enable the backports kernel changes correctly. So we are going to do the following. Config backport integrate tells us, okay, we're running in this integrated kernel mode where everything is stuffed into that kernel. The next one is the backports want to know. Oh, sorry. No. That's not what I wanted to copy. I actually wanted to copy that thing here. So, and this category here we call just enabling backports overall. Same procedure for every device. So that's device independent stuff now. Yeah? So we want these backports to be integrated. The directory is called backports. That is clear. That's standard. And now we're going to copy a bunch of things that I just took off the backports enabled repository kernel. And it basically looks like that. It will tell now the backport parts a lot about what we are doing here. So the first thing is we need to enable only the kernel version that we are working against. So we know, okay, you have a 3.18. Yeah? So we delete all the modifications for the older kernels from here. I'm just showing you how this would work. Still 3.18. So that backport mechanism only needs to know it needs now stuff for 3.19, 4.0, 4.1, 4.2. In your case now, because I made a patch for 4.3,
4.3, right?
We need to do like that actually. So kernel name in Linux is standard. This one here is just information tag. We don't need RC7. I'm just removing that stuff here for whatever sake. I don't know.
All right. I was wondering if something was wrong there with what I did because it wasn't exactly identical to what I saw in your repo.
Yeah.
So that doesn't do anything specific, or what does?
No, that's only tagging that you get it compiled into. You get an information then that this is a kernel with backports from version 3.4.3. Yeah, that's an informational tag only. Okay. I assume. I don't know. Okay, let's save this. Now there is one more thing to do. That's also what I found from my list of stuff. there is one patch we need to apply. And we need to apply this here in the backports directory. Because you have a kernel that's 3.18. I cut it short now. We will put this in the documentation. But there is one patch that is nice. Properly check L2 cap config option, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of a buffer overrun or underrun thing. That was in the trace of what Canonical did, and I just grabbed it and said we want to have this also applied. The link here leads you to this page, but you can actually download the diff as well, and that would be actually the thing that we want to do. Let me see where is actually download. Sorry. You can download it here. I want to patch here. This one is nice. If you click here, then you get a patch file and that you can apply directly. So working with patches, copy that to your console. And we just downloaded it with wget. Yeah, that's the easiest way how you can get that stuff on your machine. Whoop. We hopefully have something. Let's check. Yeah, that's the patch. The name is of course weird. I just rename it to L2 cap. Come on. L2 cap.patch, for example. That's it. Yeah. And this one needs to be applied in the backports directory. So I'm here already inside backports. That's the important part. And that patch, because that patch has references to files. How can you see this better? It references files that are in net Bluetooth folder. So if you would apply it outside, you would apply it to the old kernel versions of that files and not to the backports directory, because that structure here is replicated again in backports.
I see. Right.
So let's hope that this one goes through. I have not the slightest idea if this will work. So we are actually going to patch P1, and then we're going to add this patch here. Yes, strike. It had 30 modifications and all of them succeeded. Genius. Yeah. That's because the L2
nice.
cap, yeah, that's really nice. But the L2 cap core file was more or less a copy of the old thing, and there wasn't much changes, it seems. So that's the reason why it works. You can see actually, if you're interested, what it means here with the offset. So it had a few changes. And here the offset was even 77 lines, so there were some changes inside, but it's still applied. Thanks for the patch, guys. Okay.
Well, that's I just learned something. I'm gonna read up on that command, the patch command. I've never used it.
Yeah.
So as you may imagine, it took quite a while. I did all this manually.
No. The most important thing is you need a P1 here because it expects, it's kind of which level of directories it should strip from the file. And for some reason it's not 0, it's 1, but then it applies in the current directory. I don't invent a patch command, but I was always wondering, if you forget that, you will get error messages.
Okay.
And you need to redirect the patch inside because it's expected to receive the data not from a file but from standard in. That's the reason for that, but otherwise it works very nice.
Great. Yep.
So I can just see that I was on the CM14.1 branch. So basically, yes, that's the vanilla branch that has none of your modifications. What we can do, I can make a huge patch out of all of that, and you transfer that to you, and you try to apply it. And yeah, so we don't know yet if it works. There is one more thing in my notes that probably needs to be done because it was a compile error that I was running into. Let me see where it was. Yeah. backport include. Let's check that once. It was an include ASM DMA mapping boot H. You can see that's the guts of how the backports actually work. They have a lot of Linux version stuff inside, and if that's true, for example, they are adding this function here as a new function, and so on and so on. Interesting thing is there are double defined warnings probably from that. If you run into something like this, you can just comment this out. So for example, that block here in my notes should be removed.
That's because you've seen it generates an error?
It's in my notes that this generated an error, and I wrote also do the similar deletion for any other duplicate warnings, like multiple definition of split underscore page and so on. So the interesting thing is that Google took a few of the later patches already into their kernel. That's the reason why the backports think you're applying to a mainline kernel, but the Android kernel has a few of the definitions already. So you need to now compile, fix, and so on until this gets going.
Okay.
I'm going to remove that actually here. Well, I'm actually only going to comment it out, because then I can leave it in. And you have the benefit of you could bring it back if it really doesn't work. Okay, all right. So what do we have now? We still have just a modification in kconfig in the make file, and then of course the dev config, and the newly added folder backports. Okay. So I would have to git add backports star. Yeah, and the patch is, of course, not included. That's a good thing, actually. If you look now, whoa, we have a lot of more things now. We have new files in the backports repo. Well, basically, I think that's it. We're gonna add this stuff. And the changes to the dev config. Now everything is nice. And now is the question, how are we gonna do this? I probably just commit this to my local branch here. Bluetooth new, I don't know. You try for backports. Doesn't matter. With that in mind, I can try to extract now that as a patch. I send it over to you. You can try to apply it and then run actually the compile. And then we would be really interested in what comes out. I'm really hoping that this helps. Let me see, there is a CVE patch. What was this actually? Ah yeah, that was the one that I already added. Bluetooth CVE patch, yeah. Android kernel, blah, 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 blah. No, that's all. Let me see, how to generate a Git patch for a specific commit. I never did this. Format patch is the command. Oh, that should work. Ha! Look at that. I'm a boss with Git. You see, it's all magic, of course, but this is now 4.3 megabyte of text. And it's reasonable. Yes. Backports. blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm going to send this over. I'm really, really hoping this will work. Create nodes for a lot of stuff. Yeah, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna copy that actually to my machine and then just put it in Telegram, and we can try to rock that party now. So, porting kernel backport, Samsung patch. Maybe I should add it to a zip file. That doesn't matter. Yes, let's do that. I send it as gzip. Better. Now it has only 1 megabyte. How's that? So very cool. Adding this, downloads, here, open, send. Bing.
There we are.
There we are.
So now what you want me to do to this is...
I stop sharing now. If you like, we have still some minutes left. You can try to... I would create a new branch, then just download that patch into the folder of the kernel. And try to apply it. And let's see if that works.
Let's see. But I have to unzip it, right? Let's see.
It's
Save
gzip.
file.
Yes, you have to take it out there.
Yeah.
Just unzip it.
There. Okay.
Python version issue. Can paste the links in chat too. Yes. Sorry, Hassan, that I didn't respond on that. What you posted in the chat. No, there should be no Python version issue. So in my opinion, I tried it now to call the executable with 2.7 and with 3.6. And our issue was that I created a branch accidentally on the source repository. The Python version itself was okay. Let me check once more. I called it now with 2.7, but it would also work with 3.6 probably. I can actually try to do this if you like. We had reports about Python problems with that script, that's right. But to me, it never happened. Unfortunately, I cannot reproduce those issues. Maybe it's because I'm on Ubuntu. Maybe it's because I installed some developer packages. I have no idea.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to share that window with you.
Yeah, sure.
Where I'm in the kernel directory here. And
yeah, sorry.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes,
right?
Yes. Cool.
So you can see that I've got the patch there now.
Yeah.
And what was the command then?
You also run patch minus patch blank minus p blank 1, and then pipe into that command. So arrow to the left, no, the other one,
way.
yes.
Yeah.
And just give it a file name and see what happens.
Sorry.
One more 0.
One more 0, 1. Okay. Here we go.
Yep.
Like that?
Yep.
File.
Can't find a blah 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 blah.
Right.
Interesting. Why you don't want to?
My def config isn't named that way. I mean, in my branch, I renamed it.
Okay, then press Ctrl C. Can you rename it for a moment to have that name? Then we can get over that.
Okay, just a second. I'll do that in another window here. Let's see, where was that? Okay, ARM64 config. There we go. All right, let's see. The name was okay, there we go. So I try the command once more.
Yes, sure. Yeah, now the problem is it already modified stuff maybe, or you have already something modified there that sounds like similar changes. So it tells you reversal previously applied patch detected, assume -R. No, don't assume -R, just press N. You can press enter here.
Press enter.
Yeah. Apply anyway, no. We don't want to apply those changes again to kconfig. Yeah.
Okay. So enter.
Yep. Okay, makefile, the same. Did you apply already all those patches there?
I did a lot of this, but probably not all of it.
Okay. I would then say press Ctrl C. To be 100% sure, delete the backports. Is there a backports folder in that folder here?
Yep.
Okay. Delete it entirely because we will replace it now with a new one. Yes, just delete the backports folder and the patch will recreate it now. Huh?
And deleting it from here on the command line with all the subfolders and everything, how does that?
Yes, rm -rf and then the backports. So you need to be careful with that one, of course, but give it the name backport and it will only remove that folder. Yeah.
Like that?
Yep. Okay.
There we go.
So it seems that your kernel config and the makefile on the top level are already patched, but it's okay. Yeah. However, we should look for the changes. But let's see. Yeah. Let's try again.
Try the same command, the patch command.
Yes.
Okay. So now.
No. Yeah. No. Just enter. Yeah.
And
also enter.
Play anyway? No. Okay.
So now it created all the backports file that I had on my machine. Interestingly is the defconfig patch. Can you check now your defconfig file if the changes are there?
Well, now I have 3.
You can rename it now without. You can rename it now again to the old name if you like. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Because now I've got 3, and one has has an additional ORIG at the end, and one has REJ at the end.
Yeah, that's the reject from. Well, actually, let's check what's in the reject file.
Okay.
Just to be sure that that didn't collide with anything already there.
Yeah. There we go. You want to see the reject file, yeah?
Yes, yeah. The original file is just the thing how it was before as a backup.
Let's see. I got to disable this barking sound every time. Let's see. Exynos
LTE, yeah.
LTE. There we go. And then
Reject.
REJ.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, for some reason it didn't really eat up what I was modifying here. Can you? That's unfortunately something now that you would have to apply manually. Yeah, because it doesn't seem to be happy about my changes here, or it couldn't find the right place to put them. I tried to put them at the end because the end is mostly fine for if you're patching files with unknown history, then rather put stuff at the end because appending stuff to an existing file will always be possible. However, it will still try to match the end of the file, and if this is not the same, then it cannot find where to insert that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you say? What do I do now?
Let's see if let's see the current dev config file that you have and what's at the end.
And that's the one, right? You want to see the whole thing or just the end?
Yeah, just the end. I mean,
okay.
Or you can put it into the editor. Cat is also okay for the moment.
What I can do there.
Yeah. All right. You basically put the stuff here already. That doesn't look so bad. However, there are a few things missing. I would cut everything.
The reason there are a few things missing here is because, you collected them all at the end, whereas I left them further up.
Yeah. The only thing here, then you could leave it like it is, but at the end here you could actually just put kernel for free in, as I did before, and you can also play with that kernel and backward version stuff to just name it to 4.3, and that's it. I think that should be okay. If you are okay with saying, okay, you caught all the changes, then we can leave them in place, but you would need to double check it maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and the driver. Let me check something here. We forgot something very essential. I will tell you in a minute. Yeah, that's one of the problems here. I will give you another change.
Okay.
You remember that we added the config. There was the config BCM4359.
Yeah.
The BCM4359 is a serial Broadcom driver for your Bluetooth adapter. Yeah. That's not in the backports repository. What I was afraid of. That means I will copy it now and will send you another patch.
Okay.
I will copy it to the backports directory so that we assume we run the same driver like in the old kernel should be in the backports kernel should run in the same way. However, that means a little bit of fiddling here with however they did it. Okay, that's actually nice. That's not too much.
So is this something others will also run into?
Yeah, so the problem is that the Android devices have Bluetooth drivers and Bluetooth hardware that are not in the mainline kernel, of course, because that's again something that they messed up when they basically didn't want to wait until their drivers are in mainline. They just started patching the Android kernel with new drivers that never made it into mainline Linux. So that's the reason, because the backports simply don't know about these drivers. That's the problem here. However, because it's normally not that much, we can add this basically right away. I will just do it here while we speak. And you can see then from the modifications how this is done. Basically, you copy over the files from the old directory, and then you check again the make file and the kconfig file for that stuff. Yeah. Okay, that's easy. Also here the config is not too much. It has no dependencies. That's nice. That's something we will be able to achieve. And they put it at the end of the file. Nice guys. They understand how to patch. All right. I add both drivers that I found here. The one is Broadcom 4358, the other one is 4359. So you probably have only one on board your device, but maybe the other one is used on the other device that you mentioned before. Just because they are there, I took both of them. It shouldn't be a big deal. Git commit. I give another try here with making a patch for that 2027. Perfect. I don't need to zip it because it's really small.
Okay, an additional patch that's small that just includes this.
Yes, we just forgot it before. I was thinking when we were in the middle of the thing, I completely forgot about I need to do this as well, but no worries. Joe just sent this over.
Here we go. Right. And there it is. So the command is the same again?
Yes, the command is the same again, and you do it on the top level. That's right, because I committed it to the tree, and then from the Git, the other way around. You need the other arrow.
Sorry, again.
Yeah. No problem. As it comes from the Git history, it will be based on the root directory of the kernel, so they are always in the top level. Yeah.
There we go.
No.
No,
That's the one we applied already. No. Control C. Nothing happened.
That's the one we applied.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
The other one has also 0001, but it's just because it started counting again from the beginning. I don't know why it does this. Yeah, there. That one. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You see that applied cleanly. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So that hopefully brings support for your driver. Without that, nothing would work at all, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. So, but I still needed to do some changes to the def config. I actually added the 4.3 line while you were doing the other stuff. But there was more, wasn't there? I'll have to go through that afterwards, I guess.
If you did the modifications as we speak, you can, to be sure, just add at the end of the def config to see if you forgot anything.
Yeah.
We can add everything that's. I can send you just this text part maybe. That's the easiest way. Just add it there again, because as I said in the beginning, the config flags, if they're replicated, that's just a warning.
Right.
It wouldn't harm you to add them another time, but you can clean it up, of course, because yeah, it's not really needed. I will eventually just go here. Let me see. So the block for the configuration of the backports looks okay, we said. The block before, yes, the block before, I will copy to you also on my Telegram, and then just put this at the end of the file as it is. And
okay.
the disabling of the two other options. Yeah, we should make sure that this is in. And just look if those two are disabled also. That I just sent you here.
Okay. So I added all that to the end of the file. Let's see. I was there, and it was the right. So now I got that at the end there.
The last two lines, that was just for your reference. Those two config BT, and they should be disabled. So
Right,
just search in the file if they are there. And yeah, that looks not so bad actually.
And that was config BT. I'm searching in another window here.
No problem.
Right. Oh, wait. But there's a bunch of other stuff with config BT that is not disabled here.
Okay, show me.
Right.
Just let's open the file here. Do you have Nano installed? Because that's one of the editors that's really nice on the command line.
I'm just not accustomed to using it that much. I've used it once in a while only. And then I've used this gedit thing.
Okay,
so I've got that in another window here now. I could share that if that's okay.
If you like, sure.
Just a second. Did the window come up there?
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. Yeah. Okay, you see all these?
Interesting. Why we didn't come across that before?
I'm kind of puzzled here because
and
I renamed the def config I was using, but and above here you have all the other backport stuff.
I see where we're coming from. You can leave it like it is actually, because it will just duplicate stuff, and I agree there is something we need to see, because the driver that you are using, BCM4359, but it's not an HCRU driver. That's the interesting thing. Leave it like it is, and we just get it to compile now. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they will just merge in a way. It might be not 100% clean, but better enable more than enable less. Yeah.
Okay.
It shouldn't harm that much. Only it will increase your kernel size because it will have more code at the end. But still, it should be somehow okay-ish. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Thank you again to the stream. Yeah, let's fire up the Android build system for that tree and see what happens.
Let's see. I'll as I built before. I'll do a make mr proper here. Well, that took a little while.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
There we go. And
All right.
Okay, and I always do this to make sure.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
yep. Now let's see if there are messages now that are about duplicated kernel configs that you know something is not unique.
oh wait, I didn't rename it. It probably won't because I've.
Press Ctrl C. You can always
Yeah.
stop it here. No problem.
Okay, well, I'll go back here and rename it in the other window. I hope I remembered correctly now. Let's try once more. Do I need to go through the breakfast thing over again?
No, the breakfast actually will only set the if you stay in this window, you can do it like that. Just recall it.
Okay. Did you see that?
That looks amazing.
Yeah, but there was a syntax error thing up there.
But that shouldn't come from the kernel, in my opinion. That's something else.
Okay.
Because it's still running.
Yeah.
It's Android. It's just a mess of make it work. Try to make it work until it works. Take no prisoners. Why to clean up all these messages? You can see here is now the stack with override, reassigning, symbol, blah blah blah. That's actually things that are now duplicated. Warning,
Okay.
unexpected data. What's happening in line 952 of the dev config? That you also should check. Can you see
Okay.
that message? That's the second one.
Where is
Yeah?
it? Right,
The beginning of that block. Unexpected data. That's not normal.
See that? Okay.
Probably one option is not defined in the right way.
952. Okay.
The rest seems rather fine.
So how are we doing? Still at 44%. All right.
You have to imagine we throw now a completely new directory on the compiler, and it needs now to rebuild a lot of there, and it's just like not a small. It's a medium-sized modification. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to copy that line 952 to you in our Telegram chat. See that? Okay, we got an error.
All right.
Here.
It basically killed you at HCI BCM C blah 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 warning. Let me see. You can actually disable BCM, the HCI underscore BCM. I think it's not needed. You have this in the dev config as an option also.
Okay. HCI.
There's a typo. It's knofig, not config. You can fix that up, the line that you sent me. That's just a typo.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. Of course.
And the other one is you want to look for something that's called HCI underscore BCM because you have a different driver. You don't have the... Actually, it's a good question. Do you? Wait a second.
HCI.
I don't think it's a dependency.
I don't get any hits on HCI underscore BCM in the def config.
Backports, drivers, Bluetooth, HCI, BCM. Okay, let's have a look. In this case, because it's including a file called HCI underscore BCM.o, what I would do is I would go exactly in that position of the kernel. And then I go into this directory and look for that file, or I look for the make file actually. So we're going into
backports, drivers,
Bluetooth. And then we have a make file. Yeah. And then we look for BCM, for HCI underscore BCM. Ah, yeah, that's there. That's the HCI UART, that the config option is there actually. Do you see this? The make file basically glues together the config options with the files that should be compiled. So here I have the HCI UART minus blah 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 config backport Bluetooth HCI UART underscore BCM. Wait a second, I can show you if you like.
Yeah, if you could do that.
I can share this out maybe quickly. Let me have, where's my button here again? This one probably, yeah. So what I did actually, I'm here in the drivers Bluetooth directory, and I'm first going to look at the make file, and then I'm looking for this HCI underscore BCM, and then I see, oh wait, it's here on the bottom, but it's actually driven by that kernel config. So the config minus underscore backport BT HCI UART BCM. I would kick that one. Well, it could be that we need this. The question is if the other one is a BCM driver, because what I'm wondering now is we have BCM for free. Yeah. I don't like it. We probably need that one. No. Comment it out. We will see. So that option probably.
Config backport BT HCI UART
sorry,
BCM.
I already removed it. Yeah, that one, BT underscore HCI UART underscore BCM. Or set it to no actually, because it might default to yes. Okay. So it's better to say equal no to just forcefully disable it. Yeah.
Okay. Right, got that. And then try again.
Yep. I stop here again.
And I can share again. I just started it.
is thinking. So,
Yep.
what do you think? How was that session so far? Because I probably have to break it off at the hour or so.
Sure.
But is that some format that we could try also for other things like that?
Sure.
Probably.
And I got a lot of useful info here, and I'm gonna work on integrating that into the porting guide that I'm working on.
Oh yeah, that would be a dream. So for everybody who's listening or watching this, Ari is really helpful with doing our documentation brush up and trying to get those things in a good shape, because we sucked so much at documentation in the last 2 or 3 years that it's a whole pile of contradicting informations, and we really are glad for help in that area. But I think it's maybe really a good thing that you make a kind of a pair programming or pair sessions, or even 3 people, maybe 4 is too much.
Yeah.
Try to jump on a problem and try to solve it together. And then it's recording also, because YouTube will just record this anyways. You can always go back and see, okay, that was working, that wasn't, and from there drive the documentation. Because the big advantage for me is also, if I'm explaining, first of all, I'm slowing down a bit, so I'm trying to do the things in an explicit way. And then I don't have to take notes myself. I just can say, okay, we are recording this anyway, so I can just try to focus on solving the stuff and then see at later what's relevant for the documentation. I think that's the idea. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yes,
So,
this was fun.
I hope really that we are having a good combination of kernel options now. I'm a little bit worried about this BCM thing we have to see, because what happens is HCI_BCM could be the master driver for your device driver, because it's a stack of serial things here. But the error message that you got was just a warning about a piece of code that would be treated as an error. So the compiler stopped there because it said it's a warning, but I'm not continuing building it. I'm afraid we have to enable this option again and fix up the driver code here. Yeah? The reason why it happens now is because that driver wasn't enabled before. So the kernel compiled fine, but while you enable the new driver, it has now some warnings, and we need to fix that. But I can take a look at this as well, or it's just about fixing these 2 lines of code or what it was. I think it's an indication for things starting to work.
Okay.
Because if you don't get any warnings or errors now, it would be a little bit strange, because we are adding a lot of new code, and as I said, that should somehow change the way the kernel works, and most of the time you first get error messages.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. It's still thinking, still building kernel. That's a good sign.
It's working, yeah.
Oh my god.
And let's see here.
Well, thinking. Good sign. Oh yeah.
Time is running out.
Time is a little bit running out, yes. But I think it's great. More than 2 hours doesn't make much sense also for somebody viewing this. So if we could continue at a certain point regarding that serial drivers and how to fix HCI UART. The problem really is you have 2 or 3 drivers layered on top of each other. So you have the Bluetooth driver for the serial part is called BT_HCI UART, I think. Then you have the protocol.
Check
and
it
that's
out.
actually, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I remember. Oh, yeah, it's built. Cool.
Yep.
You have to actually enable two things, bthcr uart, and I remember now, and then bthcr uart _ bcm. It's really needed. So we have to fix that one.
Okay.
Because it will drive the serial protocol, the Broadcom protocol, over the serial line, but then you have your device-specific driver that it's adapting to the installed hardware. So it's hardware driver, protocol driver for Broadcom, plus driver for serial devices. It's a mess. Try to include that kernel config again. And just post me the error messages, and I can tell you what to do. Yeah?
Oh, brilliant.
All right.
Okay, I'll do that. And I guess that sort of rounds it off.
Yeah, that was a great session. Bluetooth backporting with Ari and Florian. Thanks everyone for watching. If you have questions or comments, you can post it in the comments here on YouTube probably. And I will try to link a few things here if I have time later to get the links done for where I got the backports repository and the kernel sources and so on. Cool.
Actually, you know what? If you'd like a very quick sneak preview of what I've been doing with the porting guide, I could show you.
Sure.
Let's see. There, and I'll share another window. Okay, here we go. So you can see it now, right?
Yes.
What I've been doing is trying to sort of integrate the Halium 7.1 and Halium 9 together and try to build it in a different way so it'll be easier to update later on. So now it looks, the introduction is more or less the same as it was previously. But then I've introduced this key to this porting guide, which has all the different sections that follow here. And we've divided into 3 methods here. I've been talking to Alfred and to Nikita.
Very
here
nice.
We have a description of the methods, and then you can click on the links, actually, and
That's
back and forth
awesome,
here
yeah.
if you like it. So when you then go into the different parts here, you get a tip at the beginning. This applies to methods, this and that, depending on what you're choosing. And, well,
cool.
I hope it'll make things easier to follow.
Yes, definitely. That will make it very easy.
Yep.
Because that was a big question for me. How you make it possible to have forks and divisions between several related chapters that can be omitted here or there. It's really complicated matrix of things, but you solved it now.
Is.
That's actually was the solution, was to build a matrix. Great. I love it.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Florian.
Welcome.
I'll follow up and we'll see what this gives.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, and bye-bye, everyone, and see you next time, maybe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.